On the night of April 5, 1923, inside Cairo's Continental Hotel, a wealthy British lord lay thrashing in his bed. A severe fever had taken hold, his breathing grew shallow, and at exactly 1:55 a.m., he took his last breath. At that precise moment, the electrical grid across Cairo failed, plunging the city into total darkness. Thousands of miles away in England, the lord's pet dog, Susie, began to howl before suddenly dropping dead. These events were treated as the opening notes of a global terror. Over the next 6 years, 22 people connected to a newly opened 3,000-year-old tomb would die. Some fell from buildings, others were claimed by sudden, unexplainable fevers. The volume of these tragedies convinced the public that something supernatural was hunting the excavators. Even Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the creator of Sherlock Holmes, publicly declared that an evil elemental was responsible for the mounting body count. Newspapers soon identified a specific catalyst for the deaths. According to reports, a chilling warning had been found inscribed on the stone sealing the tomb, promising that death shall come on swift wings to whoever disturbs the peace of the pharaoh. This creates a strange tension. Why did the 1920s public find the idea of an ancient curse more believable than a medical explanation? To find out, we have to look at what was actually pulled from the Egyptian sand. The origin of the myth begins with Howard Carter. By the fall of 1922, Carter had spent 15 years and nearly 50,000 pounds digging through the Valley of the Kings, with nothing to show for it. His sponsor, Lord Carnarvon, had issued a final ultimatum: find something this season or the funding stops forever. On November 4th, Carter's team uncovered a buried staircase leading to the untouched tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun. Inside the tomb were 5,398 distinct objects, including a dagger forged from meteorite iron, a solid gold coffin, and a 10-kilogram death mask. Rumors of a curse began almost immediately. Shortly after the tomb was opened, a cobra, a symbol of Egyptian royalty, infiltrated Carter's home and ate his pet canary. In a country where the cobra represented the pharaoh's protection, the incident was widely viewed as a sign of divine revenge. Lord Carnarvon became the face of the global panic when a mosquito bite on his cheek became infected. After accidentally cutting the wound while shaving, he suffered a high fever and organ failure. His death in Cairo, less than 6 months after the tomb was opened, was exactly what the media needed to solidify the narrative. In the 1920s, newspaper editors were locked in a fierce competition for readers. Publications like the Daily Mail and Morning Post realized that connecting a snake eating a bird to an infected insect bite created a cohesive, terrifying story. They began labeling every subsequent death of an Egyptologist or museum worker as a new victim of the pharaoh. The curse was manufactured in European newsrooms, where isolated events were woven together to satisfy a public hungry for sensationalism. When examined closely, the foundational evidence of the curse vanishes. The famous clay tablet promising death to intruders was a total fabrication. A reporter asked about tomb inscriptions, and a security guard at the site simply went along with the story. No such tablet was ever recorded by the archaeological team. The supernatural timing of the deaths also falls apart. Cairo's power grid was notoriously unreliable in 1923, making the blackout a common coincidence. Furthermore, Lord Carnarvon had been chronically ill for years, and time zone calculations show that his dog Susie actually died hours after him, not at the same moment. There was, however, a biological threat. Scientists eventually identified Aspergillus niger, a fungus capable of surviving for millennia in sealed tombs. When these airborne spores are inhaled, they cause severe respiratory inflammation, a condition that could have been fatal in an era before antibiotics. The media's portrayal of Tutankhamun as a powerful sorcerer was the opposite of his reality. Genetic testing reveals that the pharaoh was a frail 18-year-old suffering from the severe consequences of multi-generational royal inbreeding. Tutankhamun suffered from a debilitating clubfoot, bone necrosis, and malaria. He required constant assistance to move. Buried alongside the gold in his tomb were 130 walking sticks. The victims of the media's curse were actually claimed by mundane biology, pre-existing illnesses, and a lack of modern medicine. The vengeful pharaoh was, in reality, a tragic teenager. A 2002 study tested the curse scientifically. Researchers tracked 44 Westerners present during the discovery, splitting them into those who entered the tomb and those who didn't. The result? No statistical difference. The cursed group lived to an average age of 73, slightly longer than expected. Howard Carter himself provides the clearest evidence. As the man who physically opened the coffin and handled the mummy, he should have been the curse's first target. Instead, he lived for 16 years after the discovery, eventually dying of cancer at age 64. The Mummy's Curse is a case study in how the human brain looks for meaning in random tragedy. We find it easier to believe in ancient magic than to accept the cold reality of a mosquito bite or a failing electrical grid. There is a final irony here. Ancient Egyptians believed that true death only occurred when a person's name was no longer spoken by the living. Because Tutankhamun was considered an unimportant ruler, his successors actively scrubbed his name from official records. He was successfully forgotten for 3,000 years. By inventing a sensationalized curse, the 1920s media gave this forgotten boy the one thing his successors tried to take away. Every headline and every ghost story ensured that his name would never be forgotten again. Howard Carter's discovery provided the world with a mystery, but the myth provided the pharaoh with immortality.